Okay, so we're doing lists. Everybody, a list is a new type of variable. So you know how we've had variables that hold integers, that int, and we've had variables that hold pieces of text. They're called a string. Well, a list holds a list of things. It could be a list of numbers, a list of strings, or a combination of things. They're very flexible. You can even have a list full of lists. So we can create a list just like this up here. If you take a look, a lot of you, I don't see you're looking up here, and good luck with today's assignment if you don't pay attention. Here, this makes a list called AA and puts a bunch of numbers in it. You just put commas between the things. Each item in a list has an index, and the first item is index 0. So computers do that a lot, where they start counting at 0 and go up. So even though this list of dog, cat, goat, and horse has 4 items in it, if I wanted to print the first item in the list, I would print animals square bracket 0, or in this case, if I wanted to get cat, I could say animals square bracket. I'm trying to make this courier so it looks like code. Back to the slideshow. So print animals 1, that tells Python, go to the list that's called animals right here and print the one at index 1. So dog is at index 0, cat is in index 1, and so on. So we just start counting at 0 with lists on computers. Here's some things you can do with a list. You can print it. So if you print it, if you just say print, it prints the list with little apostrophes around each thing, like a list. You can print the length of a list with the length command. Remember, we already learned about the length of a string. You do len and then put the string inside. It tells you how long it is. This tells you how many items are in the list. And then you can print individual items if you use square brackets and a number. Questions? There's some more things. In particular, this page teaches you the append command and the sort command. So I gotta move this. Thank you. So look at this code here. This first line creates an empty list. So when you just do square brackets with nothing in them, that just makes an empty list. But it tells Python, we're gonna put things in this list someday. And then the append command, it's really called a method, but we can call it a command. The append command or method adds whatever you put in the parentheses into the list. So I make an empty list. I say append dog, append cat, and it adds whatever you ask it to append. It throws it on the end. So here's a little series of commands. You can also sort a list. So b.sort, and you got to have, can you stop picking your mouse up and dropping it? Thanks. When you say sort with open and closed parentheses afterwards, it sorts the list. And then here's the thing about sorting. When you want to sort a list, if I say, hey, print the list sorted, a lot of people do this down here. They say print animals.sort, and it doesn't print anything. In fact, it prints an error message. So if you want to sort the list, you have to sort it all by itself. So watch, here's I made a list called zebra, dog, cat. It's called animals. It has zebra, dog, cat in it. I print it. It looks like that. And then if I want to sort it, I just have to do this command, animals.sort. And then if I want to print it out sorted, I just print it. But you don't print it and sort it at the same time. You have to sort it and then print it. It's just how Python works. And then there's this last method called the count method. It looks in a list and tells you how many times the thing you're asking for shows up in the list. So it could be 0 times, or it could be some other number. So right here, You could, if you wanted to check if the word dog was in a list, you could say if b.count dog is equal to 1, then you could say, yeah, good job, you put a dog on the list. So that would have been true for this if we were looking at that list. It just returns 0 if you don't find it. You can change a particular item in a list. Like if I had this list B from before and I wanted to change item 0 to be kitten instead of whatever it was, you can just say B0 equals kitten. And then it goes ahead and puts it there. So like I said before, lists can be numbers, strings, or a mixture of things. I think we have one more slide after this, but please don't name your list list. List is kind of a special word in Python, so you can call it like list 1, or if you're making a list of animals, you can call it animals, you know, or you could call it X or AA or whatever, but just not list, please. And if you're going to use a list with a loop, you have to create the list before the loop starts. So look at this code here. I made a list called pet names, and it's empty. And then I started a loop. And then in the loop, I say, please enter a pet name. And then I append the name to the list. And so that loop, first of all, obviously would run forever. But you could enter a lot of pet names before you got bored. But it's important that this pet names equals empty brackets, that's not inside the loop. Otherwise, it would just make the list empty again every time the loop started over. It would make the list empty again. But we have to create the list empty, and then you go into the loop, and you can add things to the list. That's it. Questions? I'm going to show you some examples. Just make a quick program. So I'm going to make a list. I made a list called students, and it's empty. And if I print students, it's just going to print empty square brackets. But then watch, I can say students.append, and I can say Jose. And now if I print the list, it's not going to be too exciting. It's going to be just one name, right? And then if I wanted to add another person, I can make a copy of that. And I'm going to print append Chaz, and now I get both of you in here. And then if I wanted to sort this list, I could say students.sort, and you got to do open and close parentheses after that. Now, if I run this again, nothing's going to change because see, it appended those 2 students, and then it printed it, then it sorted it. If I want to see it sorted, I have to print it again. And then we'll see it. I just happened to notice that would sort, right? C comes before J in the alphabet. And then finally, if I wanted to know how many times somebody's name showed up, students.count, I could say, hey, how many times does Hayes show up in the list? It's going to print a 0, right? Because I'm not on the list. But if I go up here and add myself to the list, I have done classes at the JC as a student. You can see I'm on the list now, and it reports one time I'm on the list. I can say I'm a student at multiple schools. Yeah, now it tells me there's two of me on the list. That's how a list works. That's not today's program, but if I was going to do a loop, that's, I guess, the other thing I showed you guys. I made a list that's empty, and I can say name equals input student, and then students.append name. I'm going to print the list each time through. So here we go. It's going to say student. I'm going to say Frankie. And now it prints out the name. And I'm going to say Billy. I don't know where the cursor went. So Hopefully you can see, if you're doing a loop, you got to create the list ahead of time. If I put this line inside the loop, why will that not work? Anybody? Yes, Ruby.
It'll be an empty list every time.
Yeah, it'll start out empty every time. Watch. I mean, the first one, it looks great. Hayes in. Great, Hayes. And then I put Frankie in. And it's still just going to be Frankie because this loop, every time it gets up here, it's going to make the list empty again and then add one person. And so that's not a good move. It's, if you want to add things to a list, you have to make the list before you do the loop. All right, I think that's